Howdy y'all, welcome back to Rat's Nest Hot Rods, or if this is your first time, welcome aboard Rat's Nest Hot Rods. So I wanted to make a video. This is actually the fender for the Road Glide that I've painted in some previous videos. But I think it's important because if you're a motorcycle guy or Harley guy or any kind of motorcycle guy, and you're looking online for parts made, and you know what, this goes for panels on cars too. They're repopping all these fenders and things like that for your car when you're doing a restoration. It can be sealed and painted and put on, but don't make the mistake of thinking that it's going to look good. It's going to look like crap. When you order this stuff, especially the stuff that comes out of China, and that is the vast majority, even if it's been rebranded or whatever, you need to expect that you're going to have to do some body work. I think a lot of people and folks that I will paint an aftermarket fender for don't understand that you can't just slap some paint on it and slap it on the bike, match it up and put it on the bike. There will be problems with it. It will not be perfect. And so if you're thinking that way going into it, at least if it comes out and then somehow it is perfect, at least you're not setting yourself up to be pissed off when it shows up and you're like, oh God, this thing needs to be bodywork. So I wanted to make a video and kind of explain what you need to be prepared for if you're going to buy a fender off of eBay or Dennis Kirk or anybody like that, or body panel off of Classic Industries or something like that. You're going to have to do some work to it. You need to understand that going into it, and just be something to be prepared for it, and then mock it up on whatever you're going to put it on before you do all that body work and paint, because sometimes you got to tweak it and modify it. And I'm probably preaching to the choir for a lot of people, but I wanted to post this one up there and say, this is what you need to expect if you're going to buy an aftermarket fender for a Harley, that you're going to have to do some work. And you're going to have to pay for it if you're going to have somebody do it as well. So just to understand that. And if you're going to do it for yourself, great. I'm going to show you how to do that too. So right now, I'm getting off my soapbox. Right now, what you see me doing is I'm scuffing with Scotch-Brite this new fender from eBay. We had to buy two. The first one came out with the weld. They weld it directly down the center, lengthwise, on the crown, I guess you would call the fender, and it had a crack about 3 inches long down the top, and I could have welded it and put it all back together, but it kind of looked like we were going to have some problems down the line. And just said, it was cheap enough, just buy another one and we'll work with it. Anyway, this is a second fender. It comes in an E-coat, and you'll probably hear a lot about that. E-coat, yep. You can spray right on it and shoot your base on it if you want. I don't trust that, and I think that it's a good, you take a good 15 minutes and scuff the thing and then put some sealer on it, and that's going to give you some assurance that the mystery of E-coat, which I still don't understand because I can't spray something with epoxy sealer and let it sit for a year and then spray it. It says in the cut sheet for that particular epoxy primer that you've got whatever it is, 12 hours or 24 hours or 48 hours or 3 days before you need to get the next coating on, or you need to rescuff it and reshoot the epoxy. So I don't know how this stuff works, and I don't trust it. It probably does, but I'm not going to trust it, and certainly don't want a paint job leaving the shop and then having somebody come back because I didn't want to take 15 minutes to scuff the damn thing. So that's what we're doing, and that's why I'm scuffing a good-looking matte black fender, because that is the E-coat from the factory. It comes with a bunch of gook and junk on it from wherever it came from as well, that you need to make sure you do a good cleaning here. And yeah, I don't have my gloves on because this is just an initial clean before I get it up on the stand and spray it. You're going to see it next to several or two other pieces of the Harley. I'm only going to show you me spraying out the fender, and then we'll jump into the repairs. Now, don't let me fool you and have you think that I already knew that this was a bad fender. The reason it's here with two other pieces for this motorcycle is I thought it looked pretty damn good. And I should have done right here at this point when I'm putting the wax and grease remover on, I should have wet checked it where you wet it down and you look it over with the light and see if there's any dents in it. As soon as I sprayed the sealer on it, I noticed there was some problems. There was high spots and low spots. The crown was not perfect up and over the top, and there was some pretty sizable dents from the forming process that popped up. But I did see it. I laid this sealer down a little bit heavier on it because I saw it, and then you'll see me guide coding it here in a second so that I can knock it down and start finding those low spots. What else can I say? We got plenty of music to play, and oh great, here we're into the next part. This is 220 grit on a block, and I put some guide coat, black guide coat on there. It's the dry guide coat, and I really like that stuff a lot. I get it online from eBay. It's called a blackjack. Works pretty darn good. And so I'm doing this so that I can verify exactly what I thought I saw in the wet check with the sealer there, and then we'll quickly go into spraying some high build on it. So this is a 220. Knocking down that sealer to see my low spots. Oh yeah, these spots that are you can see the high spots there that are kind of closer to you in the video. The back side, there's a bunch of dents in it where I'm going to need a body filler. So I've actually got to put body filler in this fender, brand new fender, to make it right. And I'm sorry you can hear my dog in the background licking his food bowl. Anyway, we're going to leave it in because I have tried to retake this talking portion way too many times. All right, I'm going to back out. I'll jump back in around like a body filler time here, but what I'm doing is checking for those low spots with a soft block and 220 grit paper. Time for some filler. This is Rage Gold, and it works really well. I always put a little bit of fiberglass resin in there to loosen it up a little bit, thin it out, and it spreads out real easy. You'll see how easy it goes down. And I didn't need a lot, and I had to do it in 2 lifts here. But it definitely needed to happen. You can see some high spots and a weird low there. When you do have your lows, you find those low spots that are in dent, don't leave it just, it'll still be black with guide coat. And I'm not so picky about getting all the guide coat out, but make sure you scuff up that low area before you put some body filler on it. I think a lot of guys may make a mistake of not scuffing that low area because, okay, they're going to fill the dent and they go over it real quick and then let it set up and sand it for the next time. But scuff the low spots too a little bit so that you get really good adhesion and lay that Bondo on thin and as clean as possible. but if you put it on thick, it's no big deal. Just gonna have to put some more elbow grease into it, I guess. I'll speed up and we'll jump back in when we're knocking that filler down. We're going to knock it down real quick with some, I think this was 180 that I threw on here. This is a harder block. It's called like the Holy Terror, I think is what they call it. The wobbliness of this stand is annoying me to watch, so I feel your pain right now. But I'm going to knock it down real quick and shape that area out, and then we're going to get into some high build for the entire fender. And we'll come back and we'll sand it all over again, and then we'll take it to base coat, some fine line taping, and then into its final base and clear. All right, time for some guide coat, and this is that dry guide coat, and then we're going to wet sand. I prefer to wet sand on the last step before the base goes on. We just shot 3 coats of high build, and now we're going to wet sand it with 600 grit wet sandpaper. I'll speed it up because that's really boring to watch, but it's I can tell you when I did it that there was nothing, everything that I had seen earlier that had bothered me was fixed by the time we got all the high build on, and it covered those 160 grit, 180 grit scratches just fine, and also the 220 that we had put in when we were trying to find the lows earlier in the sealer. So let me speed it up, and I think I'll come back. We're going to spray a coat of sealer right before it goes into base, and then base it in black, lay down the fine line for the stripes, shoot a Urban titanium from Subaru over that, pull the tape, clear it up, and then I'll tease the next video.
There's a lost river that flows in a valley where no one goes, and the wild waters runs deep in the hush. You're going far from there now, but I'll be back somehow, where the lost river winds in the shadow of the pines. Oh, lost river, now I'm coming back to the pot-bellied stove, where the firewood's all stacked. Ockerbeck girl, go with me, oh my belle, my fleur-de-lis, where the lost river winds in the shadow of the pines. Now everybody knows where that lost river flows. It's someplace he's lost, behind the bridges that he's crossed, and he'd like to return, but the bridges, they're all burned, and he's much too far down to return to higher ground. Oh, lost river, now I'm coming back to the pot pot-bellied stove where the firewood's all stacked. Quebec girl, go with me.
All right, this thing's got two stripes. They're going to be black, obviously. We've just put down 3 coats of black base coat after a sealer, all that good stuff you just saw on high speed. And I'm trying to come up with ways to make sure that the stripe is, it goes into a V, and I need to make sure that the point is in the center and that the ends fall off the fender in the right spot and kind of track at the same angle. You're going on, a radius, curve the length of the fender and then the width of the fender at the same time. So I'm like, found a piece of foam, marking it by measuring it, finding where the actual circumference of the fender radius, I guess that would be there, to find dead center. I'll take a piece of fine line, go dead center down the fender, you'll see that, and then I'll start laying those V's in. But I used that little piece of foam, it was pretty handy. I would put marks on it and then lay down some tape kind of witness marks to get me close on the on where that V was, and then I go back several times and make small adjustments until I'm happy. It's really there's a lot of angles going on with these things, and it's I'm sure there's a more scientific way to do it, but this is how I do it, and it works out pretty damn good. I'm gonna speed us up.
The shadow of the pine. To build me a new bridge to the bright and golden time when her love was still mine and the world was still wild like a heart of a child. Oh, Lost River, now I'm coming back to the pot-bellied stove where the firewood's all stacked. Quebec girl, go with me. My belle, my fleur-de-lis, where the Lost River winds in the shadow of the pine, where the Lost River winds in the shadow of the pine. Oh, tonight I'm alone without you, my dear. It seems that I long for you each day, and all I have to do is sit here all alone in our little cabin home on the hill. Oh, someone has taken you from me and left me here all alone. Just listen to the rain beat on my window pane in our little cabin home on the hill. Well, I hope you are.
Oh boy, I just realized this video is at 20-minute mark. Good Lord. All right, I need to get back to those 10-minute videos. I'm going to pull the fine line. Best tip I can give you is pull directly back over the top of the tape 180 degrees. Don't go down, up, straight back, and it'll cut a really nice line. Have an X-Acto knife in your hand, little kind of hobby knife, just in case you see it trying to pull base up. You can score it real easy, and you can also use that knife to help you lift up the points and the ends of the tape if you need to. All right, I'll speed this up. Hey, by the way, doing that fine line, putting that tape down, It took about 30 minutes just for this one fender. That's why I needed to speed it up and cut out all the times where I was just staring at it and thinking about how to do it. So yeah, it takes a lot of time. So when you're ready to do your fine line tape, take your time. Nothing wrong with that. It's tape for now.
Oh, someone has taken you from me and left me here all alone.
We're going to buzz through 3 coats of clear and then heavy coats, and then throw the infrared heater on it, and we'll tease out the next video. High speed.
Beat on my window pane in our little cabin home on the hill. Now when you have come to the end of the way and find there's no more happiness for you, just let your thoughts turn back once more, if you will, to our little cabin home on the hill. Oh, someone has taken you from me.
All right, I'll clear it up. I'm terrible at taking pics after things are done. Here's a pic from the customer, and we had to exclude some things, so sorry about the cropping, but couldn't get the whole bike in. And there's that fender. The rest of that stuff was painted in 4 previous videos, how to paint a Harley in your garage. This is Henry. We're going to lower this 1950 Ford shoebox Ford Tudor in the next video. Thanks for the subs, likes, and comments. Peace and grease, sucker!